Hey everybody, welcome back to the StudioProMusica online guitar learning system. This is the last of our introductory videos, and today we're just gonna make sure that we're comfortable reading charts and graphs and that kind of thing, and also a musical notation system called tablature, okay? Guitar is a very pattern-based instrument, and it's helpful to be able to see the fretboard and see locations on the fretboard without always referring to standard traditional notation. Now, I want to say up front, I am a big fan of learning to read traditional notation. I think it's very important. That being said, it's not something we're going to do as part of this course, although there is a separately available sub-course on becoming a good traditional note reader. That we can get into later, but right now I just want to make sure you're able to read charts and diagrams and again what we call tablature, okay? So getting right into it, we want to review, of course, a couple of reference points on the guitar. I've been saying through these introductory videos to recognize the nut right here, where the head of the guitar meets the fretboard or the fingerboard, the nut, this white piece right here is a very good reference point, okay? We also want to be aware, of course, of our string numbers. String number 6 is the low string. String number 1 is the high string. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, this is all review. It was covered in greater detail in the basic terminology video, but I'm reviewing it here for convenience sake. Again, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We also want to be aware of the frets. First fret, second fret, third fret, fourth fret, fifth fret, etc., all the way up the neck. First fret down here, and the numbers go higher as we work our way up the neck. And if we can kind of keep those reference point in mind, okay? And also one more review item from the basic terminology video, which is when we strike a string without pressing down on it. So kind of look ma no hands, I'm not pressing down on the fretboard. We say that I am striking a string open. I am hitting an open string. In this case, I'm hitting the open first string. Okay? And a couple of more quick points. Remember, we numbered our fingers. Index finger is finger 1. Middle finger is finger 2. Ring finger is finger 3. Pinky finger is finger 4. Okay? Now, beginning with how to read a chart, for example, a chord chart, okay? What I want you to kind of imagine, you saw a chart in the How to Tune video, and we saw a sort of a visual representation of the fretboard. Let's look at an actual chart, and we're going to zoom in on one, but before we do, I've got one right here, okay? This is my chart of an E minor chord, okay? And you can see strings 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they're labeled, okay? You can see the nut represented by the bold-faced line. And it's as if what we're doing is we're taking this chart and sort of sliding it under our strings so that everything aligns with the actual physical guitar. Now, of course, it's not to scale. I make them really big so they're easy to read. They're not to scale. You'll see them written very small as well. But the idea is that it should sort of correspond, okay? That the nut is here and the nut is here in the chart. The 6th string is here and the 6th string is here on the guitar. And that the frets are going this way and the frets are going this way on the guitar. So it's almost like I'm taking my chart printout and laying it over the guitar, okay? But that is my chord chart, okay? So if we look at that E minor chord chart, do you remember what a chord is? It's when we hit a bunch of notes all at once. The red numbers are saying take your finger 2 and place it at, and in the basic terminology video, remember, at doesn't really mean at, it means slightly behind, slightly towards the head of the guitar. But we use the word at the 2nd fret of the 5th string. So I take finger number 2, which is my middle finger, place it at the 2nd fret of the 5th string. There's also a red number 3 in the chart, which of course finger 3 is my ring finger. And it looks like finger 3 is at the 2nd fret of the 4th string. So I place finger 3, 2nd fret, 4th string. Okay, I'm in position. I have little O's or little zeros, if you're like, above every other string, above the 6th string, above the 3rd string, above the 2nd string, above the 1st string. Those mean that those notes will be played open. Those strings will be played open. And so I'm going to strum all 6 strings. Remember, this is a chord. I'm hitting a bunch of strings all at once. And when I say a bunch of strings, well, in this case, it's going to be all 6 of them. I'm going to strum all the way downward, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that is my E minor chord. Okay? Again, just quick review. You see a red number 2, that means finger 2. You see a red number 3, that means finger 3. So my middle and my ring finger. Where are they located? Finger number 2 is aligned with the 5th string at the 2nd fret. Finger 3 is aligned with the 4th string at the 2nd fret also. I place them. The diagram tells me I'm going to strike those 2 notes, but I'm also going to strike the other strings open. And there's my E minor chord, okay? So that's how you read a fretboard diagram, okay? All right, what about so-called tablature, okay? Tablature is not traditional notation. It looks like traditional notation, but it's a little bit different, okay? In the example that I've given you, you'll see 2 kind of lines of music that are joined together. And the one above actually is traditional notation, and it's got the G clef, you know, the squiggly thing, what is sometimes called the treble clef. That would be the proper word for it, the treble clef, but it's also called the G clef. And we also have bracketed to that treble clef, we have a line that is labeled tab, T-A-B. And of course, tab stands for tablature. You'll notice in the treble clef, if you were to count, there are a total of 5 lines. That is absolutely 100% unrelated, or I should say non-specific to guitar. It has nothing specifically to do with a guitar. Whether you're playing the flute, whether you're playing the piano, whether you're playing guitar, whether you're playing saxophone, whatever, you're going to look at that treble clef and see 5 lines. There's nothing specific to guitar there. They don't refer to the guitar strings. It's nothing like that, okay? But the tab part is specific to guitar. And right now, it's the tab part that we're focused on being comfortable reading. Again, we're not getting into reading the treble clef. We're not getting into reading traditional notation right now. We're focused on being comfortable with charts and diagrams and tablature. And that tab has 6 lines. And of course, the 6 lines represent the 6 strings of the guitar. And the 6 lines, bottom to top, represent the 6th string, 4th string, 5th string, etc. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bottom to top. Okay? The bottom line of tablature represents the 6th string. The top line of tablature represents the 1st string. And so on. The numbers in tablature represent the frets that you're gonna play. So in our tab example, the very first thing you see is a number 3 over the top line, which, remember, that's the first string. So that number 3 means play a note at the 3rd fret of the first string. And then you see a 0 on that same top line. Well, the 0 means to play that first string open. What do you see after that? We're reading left to right, by the way, just as you do in regular notation. We're reading left to right. What do you see after that 0? You see a 3 over the 2nd string. Remember, we're reading bottom to top, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 3rd fret, 2nd string. Then you see a 1 also at that 2nd string. What do we see after that? We see all 6 strings being played simultaneously. When you're supposed to hit more than one note at the same time, for example, in a chord, you're going to see that the notes are stacked vertically on each other. And if you look at this particular one, it has a 0 over the 6th string. Well, I guess I'll play the 6th string open. It has a 2 over the 5th string. Well, I guess I'll play a note at the 2nd fret of the 5th string. It has a 2 over the 4th string. Well, I guess I'll play a note at the 2nd fret of the 4th string. It has a 0 over the 3. I guess I'll play the open 3rd string. It has a 0 over the 2. I guess I'll play an open 2nd string. It has a 0 over the 1. I guess I'll play the open 1st string. Guess what? That's the E minor chord that we played a few moments ago. Here it is represented in tablature rather than in a chart. But it's the exact same chord. Here's a problem, though. Nowhere in the tab does it tell you how long to let the note ring out for, nor does it tell you in the tab which finger to use. If you didn't know how to make an E minor chord already from the chart, you would have looked and said, well, okay, I guess I got to hit 2nd fret, 5th string. Maybe I'll use my index finger. I got to hit 2nd fret, 4th string. Maybe I'll use my pinky, something ridiculous. And you have this crazy shape, It's still the chord, but it's not a very efficient way to make it, and it's not the correct way. So you want to be comfortable reading charts and graphs. You also want to be comfortable reading tab, and we use them together. Okay, tab is a very useful tool. I tend to be a bit of a traditionalist. As I said, I'm a big believer in reading standard notation, but tab has its place, and we want to be comfortable reading tab. Charts and diagrams have their place. We want to be comfortable reading them too. We use everything together. We use everything we can find to shorten our path, to make learning less complex and, frankly, more fun. Okay, so there we go. There is our diagram example, our chord chart example, and our tablature example, okay? Last thing, we look at this tablature and notation example. And after you hit that note on the 1st fret of the 2nd string, okay, check out how we start. We go 3rd fret, 1st string, open 1st string, 3rd fret, 2nd string, 1st fret, 2nd string, and before we actually get to that part where we show the E minor chord and it's all the notes stacked vertically on each other, we see a straight vertical line. And that vertical line is pretty important. That vertical line means end of a measure. End of a measure. But what is a measure? We'll get into this just a bit more in the next teaching video on the basic 8 chords, but in a nutshell, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole and give you the music textbook definition. I want to give you a very easy to understand definition. A measure is just a little bite-sized piece of music, a very, very short piece of music. And we sort of separate these little short pieces of music into measures, and they run consecutively. And a measure is going to run about a second or so's worth of music. A little bite-sized piece of music that lasts somewhere around a second. And it could be more, it could be less. The key thing about a measure is that for now, it's always going to have the same number of beats. Your measure is always going to have the same number of beats. And for now, that number is probably going to be 4. It is most often going to be 4. If we're playing rock, we're playing pop, whatever, we're going to have 4 beats per measure, okay? Now, if we were doing a waltz, maybe you're at a wedding, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? Guess what? A waltz is going to have 3 beats per measure. But for our purposes right now, we're going to typically have 4 beats per measure, okay? And I just wanted you to be aware of that because that's going to become important as we begin strumming chords and so forth. So we've talked about how to read a chord chart, we've talked about how to read tab, and we've talked about what is a measure. That's enough for this lesson. Next lesson, we're going to learn how to make the most important 8 chords starting off, and that's going to enable us to play a lot of music. Thanks very much. We'll see you next time.